Welcome to the Games Revealed podcast brought to you by Bunny Strike Studios. This is James.
And I'm Tyson Diamond Hands Tyson.
And still Shagwa.
And we're here to bring you another great game. Again, with this episode being, depending on if you're the internet or if you're actually watching the game, determines how you pronounce this game. NieR, Automata is how the game says it. Automata is how the internet says it. I don't know which one's the correct one, but I'm going to go with the game.
And I'll just tell you how I pronounce it. Nearly almost good.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's one of those things where you just kind of go with the feel. I mean, I remember the old Final Fantasy days where everyone would say different people's names differently. And it was like, well, here's the official. It's like, well, that's not the game I grew up with, so it's this. And I will never say Titus, ever. Yeah. So Automata is what I'm with you on that one. But this is a wild game, so this is a game that I think almost all of us looked at and went, nope, I'm not a weeb, I'm not playing that game.
I don't know what that means.
That's kind of what makes this game so good, is that I think it goes out of its way to make you think one thing, and then you go and you play it, and it gives you a completely different experience than what you were expecting. But the premise of this is that you're an android, and you are humanity's last hope to stop an alien invasion that has taken over Earth and forced humanity to flee to the moon as their last bastion. And you are a member of Yorha, which is the android military unit, or Project Yorha, which you're a part of, to go down and fight against the machines that the aliens brought with them to reclaim Earth for humanity. And there's a lot going on there that we'll get into, but that's pretty much it. You're fighting for the glory to mankind. So, NieR Automata. This game is crazy because the significance of you being an android is ever present, including when you begin the game and they're teaching you how it functions.
Now, real quick, is the colony on the moon, is it called Musk Colony?
It is not, because that's the Mars colony.
Oh, shit! Round 2, Mars.
It is called the Ape Colony.
Oh my goodness. Even better. I suck at diamond hand things. I will say, let me just jump in. You are a robot, and it makes that clear. What it doesn't make clear is that it's going to turn your sound down and then adjust your volume, and then it wants you to adjust your volume, but you can't hear shit because it turns your volume down, and it wants you to turn your volume up, and then it locks your control so you can't do anything, so all the normal things you're trying to do is get the heck out of this menu, and then what you don't think to do is just go right or left to adjust the volume up so you can hear the bastard's noise. F you, S9, you were the worst companion, and I'm glad you're dead.
S9, the worst date ever.
Yeah, but anyway, no, the tutorial for the settings was very aggravating. I am an almost full-grown man. I've been playing games almost my whole full-grown man life, and I've been through a settings options once or twice. I think I know how to manage that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that was your reaction to it, because for me it kind of reminded me of how Halo did it with the look up at this light, look down at this light, and they kind of integrated teaching you the controls into your, like, the fact that you're waking up from cryo.
That was like a brand new game.
Yeah.
Brand new game, brand new system. They're like, we got to teach people how to use this shit.
I feel like it was done more just to give you that sense of, like, you're an android than, like, hey, just in case you don't know how to play video games.
Then why would he jack in and go, I'm gonna dick with this bit, volume all the way down?
Yeah, it's true.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, that would have been the best if, like, there was an alternate video of it and it shows him just intentionally trying to get
just
you pissed
laughing
off.
And maybe he was. He's a little jokester from the very get-go, so he could have been dicking with me. Either way, mission accomplished. I'm glad you're dead.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, though, for how you figure your settings out and how you start to learn the game. It like many games, many great games, very, very not great. Here's how you play. Like, I actually kind of don't like it when games hold your hand and teach you how to play anyways, because that's kind of the first portion. Any of us that grew up in the 90s, you know that the first things you're going to do is push all the buttons and see what they do, and then combine a couple button combos to see if they do anything else, and then you start the game.
What I want from a tutorial is just to tell me the more complex systems in just words real quick. They don't need to show me every button. They don't need to show me a lot of stuff. They just need to explain, hey, swords in this game, you're pretty much going to be buying swords from like two places. You don't have to tell me that, but like, it's just like, tell me the stuff that's going to be much harder for me to understand, or just don't do the simple stuff. And if you do the simple stuff, let me opt out of it.
Yeah, I think like really the only thing they needed to cover in this tutorial was, hey, when you die, go find your body or you lose all that shit.
And they wait for a merchant with a dinglebot robot head on to tell you about it. What a stinking way to do it.
Oh man, that robot head. That guy,
I like him or her. I actually don't know the gender of that.
yeah. I think there's two. I think a man comes in later that stands right behind her and also has one.
Yeah.
It's a robot. I'm just gonna. They want to be a robot.
Android.
I see what they're doing.
The game director wore this same like robot helmet anytime he was interviewed ever for this game.
Oh, that's actually pretty funny. I like that.
He's an out there dude, but his personality is all over this game. But one of the things for me, I guess, once you get past the tutorial that immediately blew me out of the water was how quickly the game starts changing genres while you're playing it. Like in the first few minutes, you're doing a shoot 'em up. It's not long into that intro where you're kind of doing side scroller platformy type stuff. It always has the action RPG element through it, and it just has all these wild things that it does. It also does. Let's see, did I miss anything? No. Brawler. Yeah, it basically has that old school like not Street Fighter. What was that game called? Streets of Rage.
Oh yeah.
You like walk up and down and just
Battletoads.
and just punch. Yeah, basically.
Is it when it's in a side scroll kind of view? The
Yeah,
2D
side scroll view, and
yeah.
you still have all the combo based combat, which is awesome in this game, by the way. But yeah, it's switching genres constantly, and it keeps the game engaging, and it continues to do this throughout the gameplay. So for me, like, I'd never played anything like that. That was mind blowing to me. Was that stand out at all for you guys, or was it just like what's happening right now?
I was so jacked to get back to my memories of playing 1942 on the classic Nintendo, the vertical scrolling top-down shooter, pew, 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 pew. And that was the most fun I had in that game.
That was actually it bothered me a little bit in the beginning because I wasn't expecting it.
Yep.
And I was like, I didn't want to play this in this type of game. But as we got along further and I understood some of the mechanics, because this game, when it comes to the combat and all that stuff, it has ways that you just do it and you'll do very well. It's not natural in the sense like things will change differently. It has, and that's fine. I like that in games because then when you learn the right way to do it, you're really good at it.
Yep.
This is one of those games, and I was frustrated in the beginning because I wasn't sure how to exactly do those. I'm not great at those types of games, but the combat is what was a hit or miss for me. I really liked it at times, but in the beginning, it really frustrated me. But once I found out that you could just, I'm on the computer, so I hold down Shift to, and I found the pod out in the desert that launches missiles. Once I found the missile guy, you don't need to do anything else. You just sit there. I mean, it takes longer, but you can just beat any guy with that guy. It's awesome. Except for there's like 2 boss battles that can resist the at least in story A, that can resist the ranged attacks. Then it's not as useful. But I'll say one thing: all I did was just hold that shift down while I would just punch them, and I didn't really need the 2 weapons. Because you have 2 weapons. So the combat in this, like the regular combat, you have a main sword, and then it can be a sword or whatever. You just have your main weapon, your secondary weapon, and how it kind of works is just you got combos and stuff like that, right? And I mainly stuck with the main sword, like the first sword, and I just upgraded that a bunch. I really like that sword. I like fast attacks more than slow attacks because you can get some swords that are slow. I didn't actually like those ones as much. It's just I like speed, even if it doesn't take. But sorry, I actually once I spec'd out my Android 2B, I was super excited. I was much more happy about it because and how you do it is with the CPU, right? Like you have so much CPU space, which is
basically chips.
memory. It's memory.
Chips that you're modding into.
Memory.
Yep.
I was gonna say CPU sounds stupid, but yeah, the memory.
What an idiot!
You can. I found that. I know I'm going really heavy into this a lot, but
Go for it, man.
this is the part I actually did like. Even though I did have times where I got super frustrated, but it was really a unique way of doing it, and I like that. I did like that a lot, and I spec'd my character out with Shockwave, which is awesome. also an anti-combo, so if they can only hit you once, they can't continue comboing on you, which will save your butt multiple times, because that's how I died typically, was with
It
combos.
keeps you from getting stunned, so you're not just effed whenever you get hit with an attack.
Yep, and then
Learn how to dodge, scrub.
and then make sure you don't. Yeah, and then I think those all reset right when you die, so you have to go back to your character to get all that loadout again.
Yep.
So yeah. That was, and I kind of figured that out, like even the first time after I spec'd it, but also the auto heal, or not the auto heal. I used the auto heal item or whatever when you got low. It was kind of crappy. I used every time I hit to heal, and also every time I killed to heal. And to be honest, it made the game a lot easier, but it made it fun. I had a fun time, and that's why I like about RPGs, is figuring out those fun ways to just have fun in the combat, where I'm frustrated in the beginning, but once I figured it out, I was like, yeah, I'm a badass now.
Yep.
That's where I like the slow ones, because you can start timing the combos right to where it's not slow. It's not an always big weapon, but you can time it in the combo where it comes out and it's quick and it deals massive damage.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to just learn those sexy ass combos.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what I liked so much about this game, is it's very combo heavy, almost getting into the, like, it's very Devil May Cry, but it almost gets into the realm of like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, with how combo heavy it is. So like James was saying, like at the beginning, it's really frustrating and kind of jarring, the combat. But then as you start to get your combos figured out, it's really flowing and nice. I had a ton of fun. Like this is one of the few games where I would actually just stop and fight stuff while I was running around, because sometimes it was just fun to get in a fight.
Yeah.
So I really thought it was really well done for having that type of combat, but also they have like the weird, it's almost like a rail shooter, but not quite a rail shooter. So I had to actually switch up my grip on the controller and do that Japanese style where you have both of your main digits over the RB and LB, so I could constantly be shooting and then dodging, and then sitting there and spreading in my melee attacks the whole time. And then like you, I like the speed, so you can find a spear later on, and the spear is super dope as your power weapon, because it lets you go quite a bit faster. But the thing that was even more surprising was that you play as 3 different characters if you play through this game 3 times, which is how you get to the real ending, because it has kind of these false endings, but they are endings. But all of those were different. So like I couldn't figure out why I couldn't heavy attack with 9S, and it's because he hacks. So I kept hitting the hacking button expecting to do a heavy attack, and was just getting wrecked because I couldn't do it. And then I realized, oh wait, yeah, this is the button I've been holding down to hack and do crazy damage that way. And then you find out that his hack damage is way better than his like fighting combo damage, so you don't even bother with it. And then you play as A2 later in the game, and her combat's totally different. So like as the main character, as a last resort, you can explode yourself and hopefully kill the people that are about to kill you. But with her, she has a berserk mode, so you can turn that on, just wreck house, but then when you kind of overheat and then you explode. So you got to make sure that you clean up. So I thought that was really cool. Like each different character you played, the combat was different. The combat itself was really well thought out and good. And then on top of that, the systems, like you were talking about, doing your upgrades, how you build your character, buying the memory expansion slots was a big deal at the beginning.
I didn't understand that in the beginning. That's another one where the tutorial, did they even mention that in the tutorial?
I think you had to talk to that chick that Tyson was talking about. She would answer all your questions about basic gameplay stuff.
I don't remember the memory.
So it was kind of like, so you don't have to be in a tutorial mode the whole game. You could go talk to her and she'd break it down.
No, at no point in the game did I realize that the memory was what it was. But I was reading, I was thinking it was more space. But I'm like, I don't need space. Like, I have unlimited inventory. And I'm like, wait, this is for upgrading my upgrades. And so I was like, okay, cool. I bought a bunch more because what I did, and to be fair, I played the first 2 hours of this game 2 years ago. That is on me that, I go into...
You didn't restart?
Nope.
You scrubbed down. No wonder you struggled.
I didn't struggle that hard.
He struggled so bad.
Let's just say, out of the 3 people here who beat the ending A,
Everyone did. Everyone did except for me.
No, man, you got me off now.
But let me ask you this: who beat Ghost of Tsushima?
I know that's the thing. I was gonna say, I like Ghost of Tsushima more than this, and I beat this first. But did I beat it though? Because I didn't get the true ending, and we'll get into endings later. So.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with that, and also Ghost of Tsushima is effing fantastic.
The armor of the android is shit.
So buying the weapons. So I bought all the weapons. I did not buy any memory upgrades before this.
Oh no!
I didn't buy. So I would. I would probably say the first 6 to 7 hours of the game, I did not have upgrades at all.
Yeah.
And
That
I
makes
still
a
did.
huge difference, too.
I still did pretty good though. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I enjoyed the combat more once I went into that, and that's on me. But that wasn't the only reason I was struggling. I was also struggling like a little bit more. Like once you just give into the ranged attack and just understand that ranged is like your best friend, really is. You can wreck anything with that, and you get the missiles. They just auto lock on.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, those
I should have got those, actually. I probably would have played more.
You probably would have. It's fun. The pods, that's my favorite pod.
I don't know if I upgraded it enough because my missiles were too weak. I didn't have the patience to sit there and do that. But that's the thing about those build outs that you can do with the chips. And so I should mention those two things too, because you can buy different weapons, you can upgrade the weapons, and then you can combine ships to get better ships that take up less expansion slots. So they improve and they also take up less space. So like it really matters to get in there and mess with those systems. But they're also really simple but fun. Like to me, it added to the gameplay. It felt like you were upgrading your android, which was cool. I liked that you could like physically place things, so you'd almost have to like optimize it to make sure you had enough room to fit all your different components in. But it was super sweet, man. I thought it was a ton of fun. But that combat changes again every time you get into like big boss fights, and they felt very NES, Super NES, old school boss fights. So that by itself, I was already just like nostalgia factor was there. The combat and the fighting in this game, the boss fights were all awesome.
Normally, I love boss fights. Boss fights are usually my favorite part of the game. But let's get into Buzzsaw here. Big robot, part of the tutorial prologue. You know, you get in and you're running through this factory and you get to the boss, and it's this big buzzsaw son of a gun, and you rip his arm off and you basically beat him with it. I hated that part, by the way. I hated that so much. It doesn't even make sense. You're just telepathically whipping this guy's giant ass arm. Why wouldn't you just telepathically just crunch him or something, or pick him up and chuck him into space and just do that with everybody? You're just flicking people all over into space, just dancing through the streets, having a grand old time. But anyway, you get to this boss and you're fighting him, and it's literally he's out in the ocean chucking his saw blade at you, with his arm on this platform, and you're just dancing around and just doing damage. What? It felt like I barely touched the guy, except for my bullets that I kept firing, and then blasting him with my laser beam, because that thing was badass. Mm-hmm. But then all I did was just jump and just dance my sword around in the air, and it did some damage to him every once in a while, and it felt like I was barely touching him. Not a fan! Not a fan! What? You're a robot! Come on! I feel like there needs to be a little more fun. And yeah, you knocked the teeth off of the saw blade, sure. Okay, that was a little fun, little interactivity there, but there was not much. And I'm going right to it, and then you do the whole self-destruct sequence. And you're holding S9, 9S, and you're just cradling him oh so gently because 3 more big-ass Terminator machines are coming out of the water that you just barely struggled to kill. And then you guys like have this heart-wrenching moment of death, like we're gonna die in the best way possible, sacrificing ourselves. Tink, click our cubes and die. And then you just spawn and you're back to normal. The drama in that was more than any Spanish soap opera I've ever seen in my life. I hated every second of it. I was not a fan. The combat was awful. Just so. And then just to wake up right next to each other and just be like, what's up, dog? Let's run around this spaceship a bit. Have a little rest.
I uploaded our consciousnesses right before we self-destructed.
Well, to
like
be fair,
literally after you do that scene, that's the quick 2-second explanation.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I just uploaded this to command.
It's like the normal thing that we normally do. Why would you expect this to be any different?
They also have backups at the system too, but you wouldn't all that.
Yeah.
But 9S wasn't successful from my understanding. He forgot a lot of stuff.
Well, he didn't get all of his memory backed up because he was backing up 2Bs.
Yeah.
And she was like, to be or not to be, right?
I was about to say, not to be or not. Is that another philosophy?
I think they
That's a
named
mission.
One of the endings that, yeah.
That is. It
amazing.
is. Ridiculous.
Loved it. No, it plays into the philosophy though, because the reason for that, like they go into it in another cutscene later where 9S is dying again, because 9S dies a lot. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
I mean, everyone.
And
has a lot.
what that is it's talking. It's kind of a reference and a nod to, are you the same you if you can upload your consciousness and then be in a new body with all your old memories?
Oh my gosh, this is
Is it still
all
you
over again.
Which is, this whole game is this. It's just philosophical, crazy ideas. There's all sorts of like, what is it, nihilism or nihilism, however you pronounce that.
Nils.
The absurdity of life, like how do you find meaning in a meaningless existence? All those types of topics are covered. Ship of Theseus, all these different concepts that are philosophical concepts. So yeah, like, it can be aggravating for some. For people like me, it added to what the game was trying to do. It played into the message that the game was trying to send. So I had a lot of fun with it, but I can definitely see why you'd be
It
frustrated.
adds to the message of you just take whatever you want and beat people with it.
Yeah.
Their arms, their face, trees, whatever you want to pick up, you can do it.
I reach out
What?
and I take my.
We played a different game.
That's what I got from that boss battle. It's like yank his arm off and you have telepathic powers. You can just do that with anything. Take a ship out of the water, a giant barge, and just bash him in the face with it. You win.
I don't remember having
Take his,
that ability.
grab his face and just, you have the power to do it with the arm, and
No,
you
no, no,
swing
I know,
that
but,
thing
like-
so ambidextrously that obviously you could do that with anything. So just crunch him down with a garbage compactor with your powers. Dude,
Yeah.
I just won the whole game.
Which, it does explain this, but it's very anime and it's very non-gratifying if you're looking for deep explanations. But if you beat the game, you start over and you play through as 9S. So it's kind of like Ender's Shadow. It's the same thing, but it's also very
different. And you learn he's hacking and doing all the crap,
which
and
is
I got
exactly
that.
what happens right there.
Yeah.
He hacks the arm so that you're able to use your systems
Where's
to
the
override it.
Where's the
Yeah.
joint that swings that thing? Who's actually swinging, and how can you do it so ambidextrously?
Your pod is swinging it.
That thing can do it all. It can fish. It can swing. It can amberdaxed. I don't know what that last word was.
Amberdaxed.
But I will say,
You sure?
despite all of that, and the stroke I had at the end of it, the world was actually a lot of fun. And I will say they put a lot of work into the motion and the movement and the mobility of your player. Just as in like running up the big roots in the trees throughout that busted, taken over city when you first come out of the resistance camp. Awesome. I loved that whole thing. And then even it was kind of like a labyrinth coming out of there. I enjoyed that portion. And then when you get into the sand and the sand dune surfing, and it's like, oh, it's super slippery. And it's like, yeah, it is, bitch. I'm sliding all over this bitch. A lot of fun. I really enjoyed the world that way, except for the factory. I hate anything factory.
Yeah, the factory was...
Resident Evil 4 factory, suck it. All factories, suck it.
I'm in agreement on this completely.
No one wants to run around catwalks in tight little corridors. 7 Days to Die, even that factory, suck it. All factories, we don't need you, except for in real worlds. But it was awesome. I really enjoyed the world and running around. I wish I wasn't staring at a skimpy-ass maid the whole time. I feel like that is just an odd choice for a robot.
All I know, it is very classy, and it's a maid outfit, and it's an android. So you're just getting this all wrong.
Yeah, I bet if Bender was there, he'd say something about biting something shiny.
Dude, a Bender crossover in that game not only would have been amazing, but it actually would have fit really well.
It would have actually.
It was the only way I made jokes throughout that whole game. Ask my kids watching me play it. I was just Bender the whole time. I was
Here's
like,
your gosh dang sandwich.
everything was a Bender philosophy for me. These guys talking philosophy, it was just Bender straight and forward.
So I agree. The world was fun. The main, like, story A, we'll get into different stories later, but story A, was very meh for me. But the world was fun. The characters you go and meet, like Pascal, and just the different areas. You go into an area where all the robots are, partying and all that stuff. And it's just
The Disneyland area.
the Disneyland area, pretty much, with those frat bots. And there's just the different areas. You got a bunch of different biomes. I wasn't sure. I thought we were going to go to another part of the world. No, we stay in that the whole time, which I was really shocked by. But at times it was very void, felt like early 2000s world, where I was like, and I think they made some mistakes in some of the world development, in my opinion, for a 2017 game. It felt like Final Fantasy, 11 and 12. They both have very void-looking worlds. But they were made so long ago. That's one of my critiques of the world. But beyond that, like once you get really into it in some certain areas, it does start to get more detailed and much more fun. So it's a very weird thing for me. I had a lot of fun. I was a little disappointed at times, but I was brought out of that disappointment into just having fun.
I wish they would have made it a little bit more open world than it was. Like they definitely limited where you could like jump onto. Like I like getting in like onto other buildings and stuff like that. And they definitely restrict where you can go, which again, I get it. It's not built for that. Probably don't want to put the time into it. Focuses elsewhere, like making your game work. I get it. But I do wish that I could have done more of that. But I will say, so going through, and it's one of the first things that you do after you leave the resistance camp. But it's one of those little robot villages. You basically chase this little rogue robot through the desert, and then you end up in the bottom of this silo or something, and there's just a whole bunch of robots down there having a jolly old time. One's rocking a cradle, and it's like they got a baby in there. The other one's like helping another one, like either like repair him or like give him medical aid, almost like he's human, you know, like helping him up or something. Another one's like feeding him, and they're all just doing around. S9 is like, hey man, these are all just trying to pretend to be human. Let's kill them. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. This kind of feels wrong. But we started, and then it all went to hell, and you got horde waved with all those robots. And they all start saying this cannot continue or something like that, right? It was this cannot continue. Like they all slowly start saying
a couple things, but that's the one they end on.
Yeah,
like, they all feed into that line at the end of it.
Yeah, and the one guy's like, I'll make you pay for this or something like that, and so you just start.
I'll kill you.
Yeah, I freaking. So I did like that. So that it was fun seeing that and have them all going crazy and just battling around and jumping around and doing shit in the air that didn't make sense. But then all of a sudden, they all start saying this cannot continue as one, and they all slowly stop moving and freezing into their different positions. And I thought it was just going to end that way. You know, I thought that's where it was all just going to freeze. You know, you killed most of them, and they were just going to glitch and stop. And and then they all start screaming it at the same time, and one of them's doing like star jumps, like jumping jacks, and he's dealing with this stress, you know, he's like, I gotta burn these calories, and one's just like dancing like, oh my gosh, I loved it. If you looked and watched how all of them just did it in different ways, it was grand. And then they start climbing this frame, and you're like, oh, hell yeah. Robots climbing a frame? Okay, I see what's gonna happen here. Big, badass robot fight. Here we go. And then it focuses in, and they're climbing in, and they finally fill up all the spots, and you're like, okay, Transformers, transform. And then all of a sudden, this ball is there, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, this is the ball of the head of the machine. And it opens up, and it drips out this goo, and this ladyboy with no flat in front like Ken drops out, and he just gets up and he's just like, what's up, dogs? And you just decide to beat this guy. Why? Why do you just start beating this guy? He came out like a newborn babe and was just like, why do we gotta fight? You're beating him, and he's like, why are we fighting? That dude probably just wants to go get some churros or some shit. So one leads me into a really great mission. I was having a really good time, and then they all of a sudden robots make some goo and make a baby, and that's Adam and Eve.
Robots are like, now you're gonna get it. Gonna give birth now. Ugh.
It's gonna be a hollow answer for Tyson, but 9S is or 2B is constantly saying through the whole time, because 9S is asking her questions the whole time, but she's basically like, yeah, our whole thing is kill the machines because we need to win Earth back. That's why they fight.
Oh, I get that. I get it. But he looks like an android just like they are. Are they not machines? Are they bad? What if he was a good guy?
Yep.
What if he came out and he was like Castlevania, and it's Dracula's son? He's a good guy.
Yeah, and the game does ham-fist it, because it's like 9S going, is that an android? And 2B going, doesn't matter, it's a machine, we kill it now.
Yeah.
So they don't give you time to address it, but they acknowledge it at the same time.
And then he even goes, why are we fighting? It's like, at that point, it's like, all right, cool. What do you want to do? Take over the world and kill all humans? Oh, okay, that's why. Yeah! But what if he was just like, party on, man? Party on, Garth. Let's hang out and repair this stuff.
Hey, guys, you got any pocket dogs?
Hey, guys, I actually like humans. I think they should come back. But no, just kill him.
But the most ridiculous part of that, the end, when you kill him?
No, the whole ridiculous part is him coming out of a bunch of robot goo.
I mean, that is ridiculous. And the boss battle, like, there's a lot of boss battles where you don't actually deplete their health. You just get to a certain point and you beat it. I'm like, oh, okay. But you get to a certain part with this guy, he's like, ugh, and then does he? Do you have to? I can't remember if you deplete all his health or not. Like you have to kill him.
You talking the battle right here, right?
Yeah,
Adam and Eve.
and then
so you double stab him. You and 9S double stab him,
and then another person comes
S9.
from him. Another randomly. Same ass. I don't know how this works. That was the part that really bothered me, where it's like Eve comes out and they apparently have never read the Bible
because they came out of the holes. Where do you think the ribs are? Right there, dog, and they're made out of Adam's rib. But guess what? He's a straight up clone.
That was the weird part where it's Eve, and it's like, okay, well,
where's her tits?
I know that did, like, you're already trying to go very specific to that story, the Christian, the Bible story. Why didn't you do a we don't need to get into that. It's just weird that suddenly this other person comes out. This other android robot. That was the bizarre part for me.
I thought I was looking at T-1000. That's all I was looking at.
T-1000.
Like, oh, you stabbed me in T-1000, I just gooed out and look. No, I guess one of the newer ones, the one where he has the inner skeleton and the T-1000 goo on the skeleton. That's the new one. You'd have to watch the new Terminator to understand what I'm talking about.
You just ruined it for me.
But either way, that's what I thought. They stabbed him and he's like, ha-ha! And I'm like, oh, T-1000.
So you did love it.
Well,
wow.
I like parts of the game, the robots and the stuff, the fun shit that they did with that. I loved it. Then all of a sudden they ruined it with Adam and Eve. I hate that crap.
Yeah. Just not Tyson's cup of tea, as we can tell.
Some of it was. I want to keep playing it to just find more of the fun robot stuff.
Which is so funny. It's so funny. This game is so fun. This was a fun game because just watching how split Tyson is on it, because he secretly loves the game. He just doesn't want to tell us. It's
a hard learning curve because I don't play these types of games, so it was a really hard one to get learned into and stuff like that. And it's not my cup of tea for sure, but there are definitely fun parts of it, and it will make it an enjoyable play. But a lot of it will make you upset.
Yeah, there's definitely things that'll get you mad. I certainly almost threw my controller a few times. But you know what will never disappoint you and never have you questioning where it came from? Something's ribs, maybe? I don't know. This ad.
ShopBunnyStark.com.
You'll always love it.
If you're on YouTube.
And we're back.
And welcome back.
Anyway, yeah, so that was one of our best transitions to an ad ever. I'm glad you guys all appreciated that one.
Never a disappointment.
Like that ad felt like it came quickly. This game has some really surprising endings as well.
It does. This is probably some of my favorite parts of the game. In the sense of like where I just giggled, and I like giggling when I'm playing serious philosophical games, because all you have to do. And I thought it was any fish. So to be fair, I was like, oh, this is the quickest way to end the game. You just go fishing right when you can fish, and you can, and you can't. You actually, from my understanding, you have to get the fish from a jackass, and because she's always experimenting. He's like, let's see what happens. She literally kills you.
Yeah,
she literally kills you. She's a bad guy.
It's so. I was so mad, but it was so funny at the same time. Like I legit was angry. I'm like, this is a fucking quest.
So is it a real fish? Because you catch fish. Like, I caught a bunch of koi carps and all that crap, but they were all, like, robot fish.
It's tough to know, because visually they look like robot fish, but then, like, when you read the descriptions, it just says they're fish.
It just says you ate it and this goo gets in your whatever.
It causes all the liquid in your systems to gellify, and then you just die.
Weird.
But I agree. It made me mad, too. But you want to know why? It's because there's a quest I was doing where you have to defeat all the robots multiple times.
Yes.
And I defeated the last one, which took me about 20 minutes. 30 minutes, who knows. The last one where you can't take damage and you have to defeat them in 30 seconds. For me, that was really hard. I'm on a keyboard and mouse. Everything else was this is the hardest battle ever, to be honest. This was much harder than any other battle that I've ever done, which is stupid. And maybe it's on my skill level, but I finished that. And then I finished the quest and I was like, okay, sweet. Oh, I'm going to do the fish quest now. Without saving, and I had to do the whole thing all over again because I died, and I was so mad.
Yeah, because this game, like, save points matter a lot.
Oh,
I had a couple really aggravating experiences with save points.
I always save. Well, the thing is, I'm super savey. I save all the time. Half-Life taught me that. F6, 1. Just anytime I can save, I save. Not with this, because I was stupid. I was like, no, wait, they're going to kill me because I'm doing a quest. Yeah, they kill you.
Yeah, they kill you.
You can never finish that quest.
One of my favorites is the first time you can shop and buy items and chips and stuff, or the first time you get a chip, you go into your menu and you go to equip it. So I was just messing around with stuff, so I unequipped my OS.
Oh.
Died.
Ooh.
Which was awesome. Like, I legitimately was like, that's clever. Like, I enjoyed that.
That's a great way. You should die. You delete that file, you should die.
Yeah, you can't go and plug in your main battery from the motherboard. It doesn't end well.
Yeah.
And that's such, because it will tell you, and that's one of the battle systems I do like about this, and I wish they would implement it more. It was very innovative, in my opinion. You can remove, like, if you don't want to see the damage above the enemies, you can remove that. Yep. You can remove a lot of stuff if you want to go into a better spec, especially when you get better at it. You don't need that.
Yeah.
So in the end, like, you can choose the type of combat you want, even more so, and I do like that. I do like that they give you more choice. I always like games that give me a lot of choice, as long as they explain it better.
Yeah.
With this, they do explain that you need to have some of these systems in place, because if you don't, bad things will happen. They do explain that a little bit, but I would have probably done the same thing. I just wasn't. Yeah. I was very cautious.
Well, it's funny too, because you have, like you said, complete control over every element of your HUD, and I like. It's an issue when there's not enough storage space in the game. It's one of my big criticisms with Resident Evil, especially the earlier games. Eventually, those games start to figure out kind of what a reasonable capacity is, and they let you work your way up towards it. This game, all of the stuff that you can swap out is chips, and your inventory is all chips. So, like, every aspect of your HUD is an item in your, not only in your inventory, but that you have to have equipped. Or if you don't, and then you don't have it. So you can literally have an empty HUD, which is awesome. Like you said, you can modify your combat experience. You can go damage heavy, defense heavy, balance it out. You can go long range heavy, close combat heavy. You can have healing things. Like, I was really surprised at the depth that they put into such a simple system. It kind of reminded me of Skyrim in some ways, but way more fun because it was part of the game as well. Like, you're in a menu, but it's also kind of part of the gaming experience. So I thought it was really cool. But that's kind of, to me, what this game is doing. It's got all these crazy ways to die. Like, I think one that we didn't mention is if you leave during certain points of the game, it'll just end the game.
Yeah, and it says, 2B decided to go fishing.
Yeah.
And go rogue.
Yeah.
And it just has this, like, kind of story.
At least give a quick synopsis of what you did instead of the mission you were supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm like,
it's perfect. That's how it should be. Because
ending.
if you go mess around for too long, the thing that's going to end the world should happen. You know, so like your story should continue. Yeah, she went fishing until the world ended, and then everyone was dead. It's like, great. I love it.
And they're all endings, but they're not true endings.
They're
right?
joke endings.
They're just like, oh, the game ended. But then on top of that, there's multiple like real endings. So it's a wild game. It's got all kinds of just gnarly stuff going on.
There's 26 endings, the same amount in the alphabet. So they have, A through Z, they have endings. And most of them, I think there's only like between 5 to 7 that are real endings, because you can beat the game multiple times, which is the part where throws me off. I don't like that. I wish they would have done it a different way, because I want to finish the game. When they says the end credits, like, play it again to get more. I'm like, cool. I normally would, but because I'm trying to do this for the podcast, you gave me the ending. I'm done. But there's a lot more content unlocked behind the other endings, and for me, I just didn't like that. Philosophically, they're both smart and dumb.
I just wouldn't like.
That's my
if that was all I was given was that, like, this wouldn't be a new game pluser for me. If I was given the first run and it's like credits run and then it's like play it some more and I'm like, no, what? No, why would I play that more?
They do give a very good detailed message, and I'm assuming that was put in probably after the game released. I don't know, because if you didn't have that message, I think a lot of people would have missed the true ending, which
I think he put it in there from the get-go, because once you start playing it again, it becomes very obvious that that's not the ending. Like, and honestly, like, we can argue if they're endings or they're not endings, but really, you haven't beaten this game until you've played through it 3 times. It's like the first playthrough is its thing. It feels shallow when it ends. You're like, that's really, we wrapped it up that quick. The second playthrough is similar but different. Third playthrough, completely different. You play as a new character. Every experience is completely different. There's nothing regurgitated from the beginning of the game. So until you've played that third playthrough, you haven't experienced the end of the game, in my opinion. But that's what he's going for. He wants you to think that you hit an end. He's trying to surprise you with that, how different the game is on the next playthrough. Like, again, this whole game, it's all about just setting up an expectation for you and then immediately breaking it. That's all this game was doing with every aspect of it. Like, the mechanics of it, the menus. Like, when you're low on life, if you go to your menu, everything's all glitchy and not working because your systems are all damaged. It's like every aspect of this game oozes setting and what's happening in the game and what you are and the whole, like, yes, it's philosophical, but it's like it relates to your character's mindset and the experiences that you're having. So all the tensions and stuff that are in this game, it's literally all about this android's living experience. I loved it, man. I thought it was awesome.
I normally, so playing different runs, making different choices is how I would, and I still don't even like those that much, where I like to get a good ending. I know I'm a slave to that, I guess, but I have to get a good ending. Like with Mass Effect, you have to save certain people to get a good, for me, I consider it a good ending. I don't
think there was a good ending in that game.
Oh my gosh. A lot of people say that. But with this, I don't, like, I get, to be honest, a lot of things weren't unexpected for me. And that even at the end of the ending A, they say play some more to get the rest of the game. But I'm like, you rolled the credits. I get where you're trying to go with this. I didn't like it. I personally did not like the way they went with that, and obviously I've been very vocal about it. Yeah. I want to go back through and play it. Just didn't like the way they did that. I don't like hiding a lot more playing through other playthroughs. It should have just been not the credits until you actually get the true ending. And the true ending is you got A, B, C, D, and then you have E. E is the true ending, and even to get through the true ending, you have to get they have a conversation. You have to answer certain things right, which is just essentially just saying yes a lot. And they have philosophical conversations, the pods do, about restoring data and all that stuff. And then this is the part where I actually agree with the ending, where I'm like, okay, this is what it should have been. Don't roll credits until this part. When they start rolling the credits, and I really like this because 2B does mention in the beginning of the game about killing God. Mm-hmm. You literally get to kill God by killing the creators of the game, technically, at the end of the true ending. So you're shooting, because it goes into that shooting game, you shoot all the credits, you shoot all the guys that created the game, right? Until the end. And it takes about 10, 20 minutes to do this. Mm-hmm. That was really cool. I thought that was really, really cool that you had to then kill God in a game-wise way. And then they present the true ending, which is the robots going in to restore 2B and 9S, which was interesting because they can recover and do all this stuff, like the pods, that is. And so, yeah, the pods are probably better machines than the androids are. You rely on them a lot. Yeah.
Well, if you watch that true ending, the pods basically become sentient as part of the ending of the game,
which is really cool.
Yeah. They deserve it.
It was so sweet. I love the little little mini cutscenes they'd have every once in a blue moon, where it was the two pods exchanging data on the different characters that you play as. But they'd have that philosophical dialogue that James was talking about, but in a very like robot way, like, oh, we need to process this data. And then towards the end of the game, you start seeing them just like pause. They don't have any clever like logic lines to say, so they're just like,
process this.
I cannot process what you just said.
Oh, that's not what they said.
And so that's where you start to see them wake up, and then by the end of it, they're just like asking themselves like these questions about existence, and you're just like, that's hilarious. It's this whole sub story that you almost completely miss, butter. And then it wraps it up in that true ending. But like, I don't know. I get where you're coming from. It definitely is an unexpected experience. It's not conventional by any means, but I feel like that's everything that this game was trying to do. Like, the best way I can explain this game to anyone is just how absurd it is. The gameplay is absurd. The visuals are absurd. The freaking maid outfit is absurd. The fact that you can blow yourself up and a portion of your clothes blows up with you, it's absurd. The amount of philosophy and like thoughts that the director injected into this game are all crazy. The storyline's crazy. The fake endings, the many ways you can die, the tutorial experience, all of it. everything about this game to me like is jarring. And so I can absolutely see why people would be frustrated and not enjoying those experiences. Because, like, you sit down and play a game and you have expectations. Don't with this game. It's going to blow all of them away. But that's exactly what I liked about it. This to me is exactly what I look for in a gaming experience when I'm, like, trying to celebrate the genre. You get things like this with Metal Gear when you had to plug your controller into another slot. When they'd break the fourth wall and be like, you got to look on the back of the box, Snake. This game does this crazy thing where it's breaking the fourth wall at the same time that it's sucking you into the world and making it more immersive by making the menus and everything part of the game. So, I don't know, man. Like, for me, it's a 10 out of 10. I put it up there with games like Shadow of the Colossus, Metal Gear, any type of game that makes you think and elicits a emotional response and is going to be memorable. Because I can tell, Last of Us is another one. Like, these are the games for me that I will play a lot of games that I will like more and I will forget about 4 years from now. This game, I will always remember it because it just stood out that much. Yeah. So I don't know. It's difficult to put into words, but for me, like, all I can say is whatever you think about the game, shovel it and give it a try because it's just chaotic. It's out there. It is a wild game.
Oh, jinx. Oh, it's got a ding. I'm stealing it. I kind of put it in the category of expect of it like what you expect from Dark Souls, but just totally different genre type of a game, but like expect a Dark Souls experience. And that's kind of where I started like putting my headspace into. Definitely more inventory cumbersome and upgrades and all that other stuff, but like story-wise and a couple other things, yeah, it's like Dark Souls.
Yeah, expectation-wise, it didn't throw off my expectations too hard, actually. I mean, besides some of the battle systems and the ending. And I've seen some type of endings like that kind of before. I wasn't expecting them to lock more than 20, 30 hours worth of gameplay behind the first playthrough. But I will have to say the philosophy in this game, it was a little too on the nose at times for me, where like, no, you could have mixed it in with some gameplay, with some other stuff. They went too on the nose for me at times. But when they do, there's some parts where when they get it right really well, and I like that. And that's what this game's about, you know. That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like it was the creators really enjoyed what they did. They did a good job, and I really did like where they mixed in the different, like, killing God, which tends to be a premise, like, Japanese really want to kill God. Like, that's an RPG, like, Japanese RPG style for a lot of games. Yeah. Deus Ex Machina, like, I mean, I think Final Fantasy X alone is, like, kind of pretty much that. At times.
Mario,
you know, Mario is God, so you're trying to jump off the cliff.
Bowser's like the God, and you're trying to kill
him. But in this, it's like creating your own morals. It goes into a lot of that stuff. Like robots recreate human history in a short amount of time, that's the part where it's unbelievable to me, where robots would be able to create some of these things so quickly if they have a natural. Because like robots can think faster, but the way that they talk and the way it doesn't seem like they can. It seems like they're very human. Essentially, humans are the robots, but they recreate kingdoms, religion. The frat robots, which is essentially what I call
the freaking cult robots.
The cult robots. Dude. Those cult. Oh, that was.
I loved that.
The only problem.
We shall become gods. Die.
Oh my gosh! And the worst part is you have to go back to the factory to do that.
Yep.
That was the worst part. At least they unlock another part of the factory to do that, and I hated that factory part because you have to jump on conveyor belts. Well, and
factories are dumb.
It's the part I hated in Half-Life. Another bad game. I'm just kidding. Oh, I might get crowbarred.
I guess we're gonna be deleting this podcast. You guys are never gonna watch this.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna blur you out.
Blurred. He shall not be named.
I will say, if it is about philosophy and all this, why don't they have a crowbar? There's no crowbar. I can't give this a 1 out of 1 crowbars. So.
Yeah, like it's not a perfect game. Yeah, it's exactly. Like I give it a 10 out of 10, but that doesn't mean it's a perfect game. And like James points out, hugely massive issue is where's the crowbar? How am I even supposed to find meaning in a meaningless world with no crowbar?
Exactly.
Like, do
Doesn't
you
make
even
sense.
Half-Life, bro?
Do you even have one?
Oh, we're gonna have so
would've
many freaking
that
merch
would've been
designs by the end of this
awesome.
podcast.
That would have been an awesome sword. Crowbar.
Oh my gosh, it really would have.
For all the crazy swords that they had out there, how the heck don't we have a crowbar in there?
But yeah, and maybe I'm a little harsh on this game. But there's a huge cult following from my understanding. Like there's a lot of people that really like this game. And I don't want to crap on it too much because it is a good game in my book. I just was expecting a couple of things. And I was expecting like some of the stuff to happen. The ending kind of made me upset. And it wasn't, and I get it. You can play through and get better endings, but like the ending alone was bad.
Well, the thing, I'll just say this because it's
ending
my perception on it, but I totally get where you're coming from too because it forces you into thinking like that, so it's hard not to. But like, I just don't view that as an ending because literally it's part 1 of the game and then there's credits, part 2 of the game and then there's credits, and then part 3 of the game and then there's credits, and part 3 is the ending. And that's not technically, it's been done before. Metal Gear Solid 5, every single mission that you do rolls credits, every single one.
Yeah.
So if you're locked into the concept that credits means end of game, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth because that first ending is weak.
But that's what they call them. They call them endings. So that's my thing. I'm not just saying because there's credits, there's endings, but they call it an ending. They call it, and that's just my thing. I'm just getting caught up on that. It's not really a big deal.
Maybe they could have done it in a better way, like ending version point or 1.00. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would have been a badass way to do it. Because then it was just like, you can upgrade or have different versions of the ending. 1.05. OM squee.
Got to get that firmware
Tyson's
update.
like, I need the pie ending, and I need it now.
I'd have been all over that pie. I'd have played into that pie.
It's always easy to criticize and not have a solution, but like I think if you would have died at the end and then respawned back up on bunker, and then it's like, oh, what happened? Well, we don't know. And then they just change it just slightly to make it so that it goes through, but the world still has changed. That would have been my favorite. If they would have done that, where you died at the end, and then they reset you back, but the world still stays the same, and then it changes again a little bit more, and they change it like that, that would have been epic. And I would have probably given this game a much better. I just didn't like the way they went about it, because it literally was the end. And then when you restart, you're restarting back from the beginning, right? So but as someone else.
The first one, yeah.
The
second one is completely, it picks up 2 weeks after where the first ending ends. So like the third playthrough is completely its own thing. And that's what's weird
Then it's
about
not
it too,
really
because that second playthrough
That's
makes
so
it
weird.
feel like a new game plus. But when you get to that third ending, that's why I say like you really haven't finished the game until you've done the other one, because I get what you're saying. It's like it feels like they've locked this gameplay behind more playthroughs, but really they've just divided it into 3 acts. But it's divisive. It's super
Probably what it is.
divisive, and I think anyone that picks up this game will notice that immediately. Like you will immediately be able to go, yeah, a lot of people are not going to like this game because it is like, even what you're talking about here with their approach to the multiple endings, which I agree with both you guys. There's definitely other ways they could have done it, probably better ways. But I don't think that they were concerned with making this as appealing to as many people as possible. This strikes me very much as a game where the guy who created it and directed it had a vision, and that superseded everything else. Like, obviously he wanted it to be good, and they put the work in to try and make it approachable and something that you can play. But even from their design choices, like, they were alienating people right out of the gate. And I honestly think a good hunk of it was intentional, and the rest of it, I just don't think they cared. Because, you know what I mean? It's like when you're a touchy artist and you want things to be your way, it's like hands off everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter if this is wrong or right. This is my vision.
It felt 100% like that. It felt like he had a goal in mind, and it felt like he hit his goal. I don't need to like it, though.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know what you don't like. It's got sexy robots. It's got not sexy Android operating system, like your phone. Because they essentially looked at the phone like, the Android operating system that Google's doing.
Pretty sure I saw the Android logo up in one of the corners in that tan coloration blended in with everything else.
Let's take that and create the bad guys. Because that's what it feels like. I'm like, wow, I'm fighting my Android device, my Android phone.
I love androids.
But and it's got the big robot battles. I do like that, and it does feel like Colossus a little bit with that. I did enjoy fighting the big robots.
Big ones.
I like too that they forced you out of, if you were very reliant on the range weapons, they'd force you out of that sometimes, and vice versa. If you were all about melee combat, they'd force you to do long range combat at certain parts. So it wasn't always the funnest, but it made you experience all the things that it had to experience. So.
Well, and it makes sense on that frame too, because if you're an android and you can spec into a certain thing and become, proficient in melee combat or range combat or, whatever, so can the enemies, right? And if they're enemies and they're smart enemies and they're taking in the data from the battlefield and understanding, this dipshit only uses range, I'm going to bulk up on my range defense and make him fight on my terms. Like, that's just smart. And to me, that's how it looked to me is... For that reason alone, they are like that, or they have that variance, I should say.
I do like how the game makes you think. I really do. Like Soma, I really like Soma, we all know how much I like Soma because we have the podcast on it. I really like Soma. I really like all those games that make you think, and so I do really enjoy that, and I'm gonna have to play it some more to finish that ending to actually get the true gameplay for me to really understand, I guess, fully. I got credits and I'm like, okay, I'm done for now. I'm gonna do the rest of research for this podcast and let you guys know how it is.
Yep, and that's honestly like exactly like James was saying, man. For me, I think the reason I like it so much is because I am weighting the experience that I had over the finer details, which you absolutely, they're there. There's issues and you can for sure get into it. But that's almost how I gauge every game, is how I felt when I walked away from it. And the fact that it makes me think, the fact that I enjoyed playing it, overall I enjoyed the experience, and the fact that I was constantly surprised. Like, it's just hard for me to be critical, but that doesn't mean that the game doesn't deserve it. Like, it's like I've said before, it's not a perfect game. And as James and Tyson have pointed out, I probably should be more willing to point out a lot of the flaws that the game does absolutely have. There are many of them. There were many points where I was very frustrated and very upset. A lot of swearing at my television. But I mean, that's what this game is. It's there to surprise you, I think. So that's, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this thought, but that's kind of how I feel about this game. Is I don't necessarily think it's a game for everybody, but I do think everybody should try it because it's unlike anything else that you'll ever play. Like Soma, actually. Because that's another game that was just like, what am I even playing?
I'd say give it a shot. I'll say this. There's definitely parts I don't like about it. I don't care about like the character models and the
super Japanese look.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan. So if you can get past that, you could definitely find some enjoyable parts in this game, which I can never say about Final Fantasy. So yeah, if you want to get through those parts that you won't like, you'll definitely find parts that you will like, and there are enjoyable parts in this game that will make it worth playing through. Again, I can't say that about Final Fantasy.
Just to be clear, Diamond Hands has opinions about Final Fantasy.
They're in the same vein, and this one's funner.
Okay.
And those robots make it. So give it a shot, but not my cup of tea. Lots wrong with it, in my opinion, but it definitely feels very specific of a game. He wanted it to be like this, and I think he nailed it. A lot of odd parts in it, but a lot of really cool parts in it. So give it a shot. Don't give Final Fantasy a shot, but give this one a shot.
Give both a shot. Obviously, I mean, if you don't like the art style that's on the box art, you might not like it. You might have some issues. I will say that, but it does. If you like philosophy, you'll like it. You'll get past that. You'll like it. There's certain parts that you'll like if you can get past it. But if it's all visuals for you, man, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I got one question for you, Shag. Which is better, NieR or Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, easily Final Fantasy VII.
Wrong. You gave Final Fantasy VII like an 8 out of 10 last time. I mean, we haven't done the podcast yet, but
Final Fantasy, it's tough because it's like the greatest game of all time, in my opinion, of all time. But as a gaming experience, NieR is something that I think will be remembered for its era, like Shadow of the Colossus, like Last Guardian. Like, that game's fraught with problems, but if you're gonna get hung up on the problems, you're not gonna like Last Guardian. If you're gonna appreciate it for what it is, there's literally nothing like it, and that's this game. So for me, I don't know, just the agelessness of this game. Not because I'm not saying it's going to hold up well, but like there won't ever be a game like this again because the game kind of sums up the generation that it came out in, what gaming was capable of at the time, and what people's kind of concept of what a game was. And I think that's really like a lot of what he was going for. He's like, this games can be so much more than what we think. And every time that happens, we love it. Like Zelda, it's one of the reasons Zelda is so beloved to everybody is because it kind of broke out of the mold of the old NES. Here's games. And I love that. I look forward to it in every generation. I don't know necessarily if I get that experience every generation, but it's what I hope for, is a game that kind of says, this is where we're at when this console was out. And I feel like this game does that. Graphically, it's like style-wise, not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but like as far as like how it looks, like the graphical fidelity of it, it's excellent. So for a PS4 era game, I think it really does kind of sum up a generation and an avenue of gaming, like games as art type of deal.
All I gotta say is, why did they copy? It's just a clone of Soma, so that's all I gotta say.
Why are you copying?
It just feels like the same game. No, they really.
Well, it's easy to copy when it's all just, ones and zeros.
I like that.
And that's why we're all professional editors and coders.
Exactly. Because I code in ones and zeros. But any last thoughts on this thing? For me, I really did like the game. I really obviously conflicted. Get it? That's really it for me.
Yeah, I said what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll say it. I'm going to go out on the high note. This, for me, was one of the greatest gaming experiences of my life. I hold it up there with some of my favorite games of all time.
Cool. That has been this episode. Go check out shopbunnystrike.com. I know I don't rep that well enough, but go check it out. We've got some cool merch there. If there's any merch ideas you have, throw them in the comments if you're on YouTube. If not, pretty sure there's an email on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to. There should be some way to get back to us. So thank you guys for watching and listening. And this has been the Games Revealed podcast brought to you by Bunny Strike Studios. This is James.
And I'm Tyson Diamond Hands Tyson.
And I'm Shagwa.
And we love you guys. Later.
Bye.